that time to talk about handles and feet. Normally, I like to share this as an interactive display and an interactive presentation. But in order to get people moving in the right direction, I really want you to think about, what does a handle really mean? What does a foot really mean? So we have a little simple exercise for us to start off with, and we're going to take a look at an object. This object that you see in front of you is really just a simple manhole cover. Now I ask the question, does it have a handle? You may take a little bit of time and think, does it really have a handle? Is he really asking me, does this thing have a handle? Because I don't know how I'm going to pick it up. I might have some ideas. But if I think about a handle only in one way, I'm really limited on whether or not I can see it for what it truly is. So we're going to spend a little bit of time digging into handles and feet and how they have application to our hand building projects. My essential question is here, how are you demonstrating your knowledge of function in your design with regards to handles and feet? So your knowledge of function and how that function is going to fit into my design. So if I set forth with the definition that's given from the dictionary about a handle, it is the part by which something is held, carried, or controlled. The pan featured helpful lifting handles. So the examples in this picture are all saw handles. Some in the upper right are better for pushing and pulling a saw blade across some wood, whereas the bottom left one, the second one from the bottom, this one right about here, is actually only designed to be pulling. Now, if you pushed on this, your hand would slide right down the blade, and that would be a really bad thing. So some things are going to have kind of some gentle reminders of how you're going to pick something up or how you're going to utilize something. So again, if we look at a handle as the part by which something is held, carried, or controlled, we go back to our initial picture and we look at this and say, you know what? Although a manhole cover, something that I'm not going to be able to pick up, how am I going to control it if I was to roll it? How am I going to carry it? Now, manhole covers, I dive deeper into this, but are rounded because we can't carry them. They're 250 pounds on average, so we need to roll them. So the handle becomes the edge at which it rolls around. And because this is rounded, it doesn't need to fit into this opening in any one manner. It can fit in it multiple different ways. So the fact that this is actually designed circular is really ingenious. And I can roll this really easily. Carrying around 250-pound plate that's bigger than a human, or about as big as a human, is very difficult. So keep that in mind as you're kind of moving forward. Think about what your preconceived notions of a handle are versus what they really are. So let's take a look. Again, a part by which something is held, carried, or controlled. Sometimes things have a function, and this one actually has two handles. This is a water spigot. Has a little notch there on the end to hold the bucket so I can fill that up with water. Sometimes we see simple objects like a spray bottle. A spray bottle, I would argue, has multiple different handles. If it is the part by which something is held, we may look at it a little bit lower, like that green part, the way it is controlled by the blue trigger, and even the blue little adjustable knob at the end, which allows it to be a full stream or a mist. And even a bucket has a handle that's right in the middle. It swings to the side for storage, but if I carry something, it's sloshing back and forth. The bucket will move, not the handle. Sometimes we use handles to control something, right? Part by which something is held, carried, or controlled. Think about the pop socket. You know, pop sockets were a thing because we could carry something larger than really might fit in our hand. Or in this example, this wonderful little strap system that connects to a small child to keep them within reach of their parent. Sometimes we see these in the kitchen. We either see a handle going from the side or we see a knob. Now your preference might be, well, I don't know. Do I have an oven mitt on? Am I grabbing this with my bare hand? Is it slippery? Is it not slippery? So I might have a preference to one or the other. If I keep looking at these, some things that are meant to go in the oven are going to have to be grasped with oven mitts. Or you have to use pot holders. So can I grip it well enough with the handles that are in place with something else getting in the way? Now these are some really kind of silly phone things. I'm not sure if any of these would actually be really functional, but they're kind of aesthetic and have their own beauty. The one in the middle I really like because it lays flat. It is something where if you actually wanted to have control of it, that might be actually a great kickstand or a place to put your finger. And the handle on the far right is really like, would this handle work in an everyday situation? So there's lots of examples, and I can share one really quick one. All these pop bottles are meant to be gripped very tightly because they're not twist-off caps, they're pry-off. And so I have to have a good firm grip. So whether they're kind of knurled like a barbell, they have extra texture, or they have ridges here, they're all meant to sit in your hand. Pop bottles of the 80s kind of went against that, but they were twist-offs rather than those pry-offs. Then later into the late 90s, early 2000s, things changed where they were adapted to fit in your hand better. Notice the gripping in the Gatorade bottle allows you to hold it and open it up in your mouth very easily with one hand and your mouth. The Coca-Cola bottle is kind of an ode to those early glass bottles, the Evian container, even those twisting marks. They have the mountains, the natural spring water, mineral water, allow the bottle to crush even easier to recycle it. So sometimes when we look at ceramic examples, they might be hidden, as in the one on the left by Stephen Godfrey with the figure of a bird. How that handle then connects to the body of it, which removes it off, and then noticing that this is a jar. Whereas the example on the right by Joe Singwald, I see the handles right there. I can grip my hands. Super, like beat you over the head. That's where the handles are. Sometimes they might be inspired by other things, whether it's knots, whether it's bamboo, whether it's supposed to look like a piece of furniture, grabbing it by what we might consider the pillow. Now feet, switching gears slightly, is really just the bottom part of something. Now I use the example, does everything need feet? If something is sitting on a large surface that needs to be really balanced, like a tub or a set of drawers, we want to spread that out into multiple places so it doesn't wobble. But if we have something that maybe is functional, 3 feet is really nice because it's self-leveling. I mean, if one is slightly smaller or shorter than the others, it's not going to matter. So these are 3 examples. Some are historical. Obviously, the one on the left is contemporary. Now, you got to think about, where is it going to go? Is this going to go into the oven? Something in the oven is not going to need a foot, but something that sits on your table might need a little bit of a lift to make sure it sits flat. If something is going to go into the ground, and like these cooking pots on the far right, they have these rounded dome bottoms that are going to be nestled down into the ground. So if we continue to look at ceramic examples, we can take lots of inspiration from different things. But the idea that everything needs a foot, kind of, depending on where it's going to go. Is it going to sit in your hand? Is it going to go on the table? Is it going to rest in your lap? Is it going to go in the dirt? Lots of things for you to think about, and I would really encourage you to look at what's around you. Most of your greatest ideas will not be from clay. They will be from something else. Whether that's your interest in mechanical things, whether that's your interest in sporting activities. There's lots of possibilities here. So I'd really encourage you to think about ways to incorporate those ideas into attachments for your hand-built pots. I hope you enjoyed this overview of thinking about handles and feet, and I really hope you think about them a little bit differently once you have considered the big idea and the large definition that the dictionary gives us, rather than simply every coffee cup has a handle, and that is the only type of handle. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.